Jerome Powell advertía sobre esa elevada incertidumbre del techo de tipos de interés y confirmaba, eso sí, que será más alto de lo que se estimaba en septiembre por la Reserva Federal. Lo elevaba hasta el 4,5% para 2023. Los motivos: las tensiones en el mercado laboral y esa inflación que sigue siendo demasiado alta por los efectos de segunda ronda y los salarios. Tras explicar cuál es el modelo con el que actúan desde la Fed en esa normalización de política monetaria, Powell hacía especial atención y ponía el foco en que lo importante es saber cuándo moderar. Advertía que es más importante que saber cuándo moderar el ritmo de las subidas es hasta dónde pueden llevar los tipos.
So I think you can think about our tightening program as really addressing three questions. The first of which was, and has been, how fast to go. The second is how high to raise our policy rate. And the third will be eventually how long to remain at a restrictive level. So on the first question, how fast to tighten policy, it's been very important that we move expeditiously, and we have clearly done so. We've moved 3.75% since March, admittedly from a base of 0. It's a historically fast pace, and that's certainly appropriate, given the persistence and strength in inflation and the low level from which we started. So now we come to the second question, which is how high to raise our policy rate, and we're saying that we'd raise that rate to a level that's sufficiently restrictive to bring inflation to our 2% target over time, and we put that into our post-meeting statement. Because that really does become the important question, we think now, is how far to go, and I'll talk more about that. We think there's some ground to cover but before we meet that test, and that's why we say that ongoing rate increases will be appropriate. And as I mentioned, incoming data between the meetings, both the strong labor market report, but particularly the CPI report, do suggest to me that we may ultimately move to higher levels than we thought at the time of the September meeting. That level is very uncertain, though, and I would say, we're going to find it over time. Of course, with the lags between policy and economic activity, there's a lot of uncertainty. So we note that in determining the pace of future increases, we'll take into account the cumulative tightening of monetary policy as well as the lags with which monetary policy affects economic activity and inflation. So I would say as we come closer to that level, move more into restrictive territory, the question of speed becomes less important than the second and third questions. And that's why I've said at the last two press conferences that at some point it will become appropriate to slow the pace of increases. So that time is coming, and it may come as soon as the next meeting or the one after that. No decision has been made. It is likely we'll have a discussion about this at the next meeting, a discussion. To be clear, let me say again, the question of when to moderate the pace of increases is now much less important than the question of how high to raise rates and how long to keep monetary policy restrictive, which really will be our principal focus.